Hi everybody, and welcome back. Hope you had a great spring break. Today we're going to look at we're going to discuss some work from before the break, and then we're going to talk about the poem that we're going to look at this week, which is T.S. Eliot's The Love Song of J. Alfred Prufrock. They all belong to the same tradition, which is the Carpe Diem tradition, but what Eliot does with that tradition is quite interesting and indicative of the times in which he was writing. So the first two poems we're going to look at are Andrew Marvell's To His Coy Mistress and John Donne's The Flea, both of which we were on the list for last week. And they're both from the 17th century, the 1600s. They were written in the early to mid 1600s. Matthew Arnold's poem, Dover Beach, comes a bit later. And in the 19th century, it's actually post-Darwin, and some of the themes have to do with Darwin pretty clearly and his findings. So this is all, most of this is covered in your lecture notes, but for those of you who prefer this, that's fine. So first we'll start with Donne, and his poem, The Flea, if you're reading on, which I do recommend, is on page 793 in your books. So in this poem it occurs through three movements, and it's a consistent reaching toward wooing the subject of the object of the poem, the speaker's potential lover. And so you can see through the poem, if you look at the second stanza, for example, he goes, "Oh stay, 3 lives and 1 flea spare, where we almost nay more than married are. The flea is you and I, and this our marriage bed, and marriage temple is." So what he's done is he's taken this little flea that's bitten them both and risen it to the level of their marriage temple. And he goes even further to that. For example, in the last line of that stanza, when he's trying to stop the lady from killing the flea, he says, Let not to that self-murder added be, and sacrilege, 3 sins in killing 3. Now he's talking about the Trinity. So very quickly he's taken a thing as small as a flea, said first of all that it's a representative of the two of them making love, and then he says it's their marriage bed, and then he goes on to say that it's, if she kills the flea, it's like killing the Trinity. There's pretty clear evidence of that in the poem. Then he goes on to say that after she kills the flea, which happens in the poem, he says, "Did it hurt?" And she says, "No, it didn't." She seems it didn't hurt her, and so he argues that since it didn't harm her, neither will a little roll in the grass, I guess. So it won't harm her honor. And then we have, moving along, we have Andrew Marvell and To His Coy Mistress, which is also occurs in 3 movements, right? There's 3 stanzas or 3 paragraphs. The first of which asks if we had time, what he would do with it. The second stanza, always at my back I hear time's winged chariot drawing near, says, well, we don't have time. Death's coming. It's right around the door. And then he says, well, let's roll all of our strength, all of our sweetness up into one ball. Let's seize the day, Carpe Diem. And this is Marvell's argument. Both of them are ingenious little ways of wooing someone to break through some coyness. Now later on with Arnold, things aren't so simple. Arnold's poem Dover Beach is on page 778, and he's saying he's struggling with something a little bit more serious than just a bit of lovemaking. He says, "The sea of faith was once too at the full, and round earth's shore lay like folds of a bright girdle furled. But now I only hear its melancholy long withdrawing roar, retreating to the breath of the night wind, down the vast edges drear and naked shingles of the world. So here, what he's really talking about and what he's reacting to are Darwin's findings in the origin of species. And he says, you know, we can no longer interpret the Bible historically, and therefore our faith is waning. So what do we have left? He says, "Ah, love, let us be true to one another. For the world, which seems to lie before us like a land of dreams, so various, so beautiful, so new, hath really neither joy, nor love, nor light, nor certitude, nor peace, nor help for pain." So he's really, aside from, struggling with the person he's with here, he's struggling with a sort of existential dilemma, that it seems that there's no more higher power to look to for meaning. So what he sees in meaning is, "Ah, love, let us be true to one another." We have to, all we have are our human relationships. Now, we are ready for Eliot. If we turn to the love song of J. Alfred Prufrock, if you've read this poem, on 796 is where it begins, you'll notice that it's not really much of a love song. In fact, in this poem we see a speaker who is completely and utterly stunned by the idea of even approaching one of these women who he's looking at. And this is indicative not only of Prufrock's own his own problems, his own self-deceptions, his own self-consciousness, I guess we'd call it. But also, I think Eliot's making a point about the larger world. There's some kind of neat allusions in here. For example, on line 92, it says, "Would it have been worthwhile to have bitten off the matter with a smile, to have squeezed the universe into a ball?" This is after he's avoided talking to these women, and he seems to he's definitely invoking Marvell here, and he's saying, what if I did what Marvell did? What if I just boldly asked what I wanted to ask? And the answer is, he kind of decides that it's not worthwhile. Now what happens, you can see here the progress. Would it have been worthwhile after all? Would it have been worthwhile? And then he's worried that, as he quotes the person, would it have been worthwhile if one, settling a pillow or throwing off a shawl and turning toward the window, should say, "That is not it at all. That is not what I meant at all." 110, lines 108, 110. So he's fearing rejection to the point of paralysis. It's very different than Donne's argument about the flea, or Marvell's argument with Time's winged chariot and making the sun run and all of that imagery. He says, "I should have been a pair of ragged claws." This is all very different. It's a change, and the change, some argue, comes not only from the industrial world that's grown up around Eliot, but also this is a post-World War I poem, and there was a widespread feeling after the war that humanity, civilization, was not all that it was cracked up to be. That there was this idea that we don't hold each other up, like Arnold's idea of letting us be true to one another. Instead, we kind of have this urge, this tendency to tear each other down. And with this interpersonal relationship that Eliot portrays here, or lack thereof, we see an image that resounds not only in the sort of atomization of individuals in the industrial age, this idea that we're nothing more than consumers and we have an inability to communicate with one another, but also the idea that sort of that civilization is in some way tainted in a way that is completely unproductive. And Therefore, as we see in Prufrock's case, there is no production, there is no procreation. Even though we don't know if Donne's or Marvell's arguments worked, we do know that at least they presented them, they tried. Whereas with Prufrock here, with Eliot's speaker Prufrock, it isn't even given a chance. Therefore, what the fate of humanity is up in the air, and the war really put that in relief and begged all of these questions. So, as you see, there's a clear continuity among here, and you can see how each generation's problems created a shift in this poetic tradition. And although they added to the tradition, they took their own time and put their own spin on it. So you see, I guess, first with Shakespeare chronologically, and then with Marvell and Donne, and then with Arnold, he's dealing with the sea of faith, right? These Darwinian findings, and then we see Eliot dealing with the war, all through this poetic tradition. So there you have it. All these poems take time and study, so it may be useful to go back through them all and read them. But for now, I wish you luck on your essays. Please feel free to email me or contact me with any questions you have, and have a nice one.